Hey everyone, this is Matt Tamas with the MMA Warrior. It's not just a sport, it's a lifestyle. We're here with our guest today, Jason C. Brown. He's the creator of KettlebellAthletics.com. He has been featured in numerous health and fitness magazines such as Men's Health and Men's Fitness. He trains a variety of athletes, a lot of combat athletes throughout the week, specifically with kettlebells. Jason, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Sorry about my technical inadequacies, but
That's all right. Quick question for you. How did you get into kettlebells specifically as far as strength and conditioning?
I've always been interested in Eastern sports science, Russian sports science, and the first. Are you familiar with Steve Maxwell?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I started training BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, with Steve Maxwell at 707 Chestnut Street in Philadelphia. He was the first BJJ academy on the East Coast.
Yep.
But he also had a client or athlete that made Steve would train the guy, and Steve would make cool tools, man. So he actually had this guy get these big steel ball bearings and weld handles on. I'm not sure if you ever seen them. They're sort of like legendary. But make these, and they weren't ergonomically designed whatsoever, man. It was a ball with like a square handle welded onto it. So those were his prototype kettlebells, and he had them at his jiu-jitsu academy in Philadelphia. So that was my first introduction. That was back, I think I started training jiu-jitsu with him in 95. And he got those a couple years later, like 99. And that was my first introduction. And then through Steve and everything, Pavel came onto the scene, and I was already familiar with them a little bit because of Steve. And then, I picked up a magazine, of course, reading something on Eastern sports science, and I saw that kettlebells were actually becoming available via, mail order and Dragon Door, and I was like, I got to get these. So that was a long time ago.
So now, when you train combat athletes, do you specifically use mostly kettlebells, or how do you train your athletes?
Now, it really depends. The kettlebell, we use it for some things pretty much all the time. Like, for example, we'll use the kettlebell for exercises like windmills or bent presses or swings, but we won't necessarily use them for snatches, or we won't necessarily use them for squats or anything else like that. The kettlebell becomes more important for us when we're training for power and when we're training for power endurance, or something in the MMA world more known as conditioning. But we can go 4 to 6 weeks. We'll even go sometimes 8 to 12 weeks where it's nothing but heavy dumbbells, heavy kettlebells, and body weight stuff. I'm sorry, heavy dumbbells, heavy barbells, body weight stuff.
Okay. As far as kettlebell, like, can you give us an example of like what you would do with a combat athlete with kettlebells? For those of because I'm thinking that a lot of people that watch this interview, isn't going to know specifically like what type of exercises are out there with these.
Yeah, I think the exercise library is quite extensive. With anything that you could do with a dumbbell, you could do with a kettlebell. But we use it strategically to sort of, I like the term direct it. Moves that are directed at enhancing a physical attribute that a combat athlete or a mixed martial artist would need.
Okay.
Right, so are you familiar with bent presses?
Yes. Yep.
Yes. So in my opinion, windmills and bent presses do a great job of building the hip mobility, the thoracic spine mobility, and the shoulder stability needed to enter into a hip throw well and safely, if that makes sense.
Okay. So you use kettlebells basically as more of a sports-specific tool?
No, we'll use them for general population, and we also use them for general conditioning, but we put the general conditioning sort of at the end of the session.
Okay.
Some people will call it like the big finish or something like that. But if we're in the strength phase of our program, maybe for the last 10, 15 minutes will be like a high intensity, high rep kettlebell workout. But that wasn't the majority of the session. The majority of the session, given that athlete, would be, 45 minutes of strength training. And then because, most combat athletes and mixed martial artists are addicted to high heart rate conditioning and high intensity training, we still give them a little bit of a stimulus, but we don't make it the whole workout. And that little bit of the stimulus at the end of the workout usually revolves around either swings, high rep snatches, maybe something called a long cycle, which is a high rep clean and jerk or high rep clean and press, something like that.
Now, can you go